Hello friends, welcome to my channel James Biology. Today we are going to discuss the very important part of the chapter breathing and exchange of gases, that is the respiration, and this is the human respiratory system, and it is found in the same way in most of the mammals, so we can also call it the mammalian respiratory system. So let's start the human respiratory system. The human respiratory system. In the human respiratory system, this diagram shows most of the parts of our respiratory system, starting from the windpipe, that is the trachea, which divides into two bronchi, and the bronchials enter to the right lung and the left lung respectively. The division of the trachea is known as the bronchus, and they enter into both the lungs, and there they divide and redivide, and finally they open to the air sacs, which we call as the alveoli or the air sac, in which the exchange of gases takes place. So this is a basic idea about the structure of human lung. The right lung, we can see here, is divided into three lobes: the superior lobe, middle lobe, and inferior lobe. Likewise, the left lung is divided into two lobes, the superior and inferior only. Here the left one is divided into two lobes, whereas the right lung is divided into three different lobes. So it is, remember, the respiratory system is derived from the endoderm. So it is derived from endodermic layer of embryo, or the endoderm. Okay, so it starts from the nostrils, the first part, that is the external nose. It is the only part of respiratory system which is seen. So nostrils are the opening of the nose, and after nostril it is the nasal cavity, then the pharynx, and after pharynx it will go to the larynx. In pharynx it is particularly the nasopharynx, we can also say. Then to the larynx, or the first part of the trachea, then the trachea or windpipe as it is seen in the figure or diagram. Then after trachea, what is there? It is the bronchi. So two bronchi are there. It is the bronchi, and it is again divided into different parts, like the primary bronchi, then secondary bronchi, then tertiary bronchi, and finally bronchioles. The fine branches of bronchi are known as bronchioles, and these bronchioles now again divided into various types, like the primary bronchioles, respiratory bronchioles, etc., and then the bronchioles open into the last part of the system, that are the air sacs or the alveoli, where the exchange of gases between the blood and the atmospheric air takes place. So it finally reaches the alveoli. Okay, along with these, the other structures, these are the bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli. These are present inside the lungs. So lungs is the most important part of our respiratory system. Likewise, we have different muscles also involved in this process, like the diaphragm. Diaphragm plays a very important role in the process of breathing. So it helps in the process of respiration. So this is the basic idea. What are the different parts of the human respiratory system? Starting from the nostril, external opening of the nasal chamber, up to the alveoli, the innermost part of the lungs, which is present at the last part of the lungs, and air travels through this way from nostril, through nasal cavity, pharynx, then larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and finally reaches alveoli. Clear? So this is the way through which the atmospheric air travels in order to reach alveoli. So let's talk in detail what is the nostril, nasal cavity and nasopharynx. It is endodermal in origin, remember. So the nose, nasal cavity and nasopharynx. Nose, then nasal cavity, and after nasal cavity the nasopharynx. These are involved in the first step. So nose is the first part, it is the first part. Then the nasal cavity, it is divided by septum, divided into two by septum. So a septum is present in between, so that it divides the nasal cavity into two separate chamber, as the two nostrils are there which opens outside. Okay, so it is divided by two septums. The nasopharynx is present behind the nasal cavity. It is present behind the nasal cavity above the level of the uvula, So the region present above uvula or the nasopharynx, above the uvula, or we can also say above soft palate. The region which is present is the nasopharynx. So the nose or the external nostrils receives, it is the first part, it receives the atmospheric air. Then the air travels to the nasal cavity, which is divided into two separate chambers by the septum present in between, and finally it reaches the nasopharynx, which is present behind the nasal cavity above the soft palate. So again, two terms we need to know. What are the two terms? We have already discussed in the chapter digestion and absorption. So here we will also discuss them again. Glottis. What is glottis? It is the opening of the trachea or the windpipe to the pharynx. It is the opening of pharynx, the nasopharynx or the pharynx opens to the larynx. Next part is the larynx. So pharynx is a common part of digestive and respiratory system, and larynx is the first independent part of the respiratory system. So pharynx open to larynx through a small pore which is known as glottis. It is present in between the pharynx and larynx, and this glottis is guided by a valve. A minute valve is present which guides glottis, which is known as the epiglottis. It closes the glottis. It closes the glottis during swallowing of food. So when we swallow food, in order to stop the food to enter into our larynx or to the trachea, to the respiratory system, the glottis is closed during swallowing of food by a valve which is known as the epiglottis. Okay, so it closes the glottis during swallowing of food. Now let's move to the next part, that is the larynx. So after the pharynx, the air enters through the glottis into the larynx. So larynx, we know it is known as, also called as the voice box. It is known as the voice box. It is the first part of trachea. So trachea starts after these larynx that produces sound. It is the larynx. Okay, so larynx is the first part of the trachea. It is the first part of trachea. Keep watching the video. At the end, I will provide you notes also. The handwritten notes I will give you. Okay, so it is the larynx is the first part of the trachea or the windpipe, and it is present in the neck. Wall of the larynx is made up of 9 pieces. 9 pieces of cartilage. 9 pieces of cartilages are there, which makes the wall of larynx or the voice box. So what are the 9 pieces of cartilages? So out of the 9 pieces, 3 are in pairs and 3 in single. So 3 are in pairs, means they make 6 number of cartilages, and 3 in single. So 6 plus 3, that is a total of 9 number of cartilages are there. So what are the different cartilages that makes the larynx? So the first 3 which occurs singly, present in single, the first 3 which present in single are the thyroid cartilage, the epiglottis, as we talk about this in detail, the epiglottis and the cricoid cartilage. So these are the 3 single cartilages which are present in the larynx, and the pairs are the number 1 arytenoid. The arytenoid cartilage is in pair, it is present in pair. Cuneiform, the cuneiform cartilage is also present in pair. Then the corniculate, third one is the corniculate cartilage. So these 3, the arytenoid, cuneiform and corniculate, these 3 are present in pairs. So they are present in pairs. So 2 arytenoid cartilage, 2 cuneiform cartilage and 2 corniculate cartilages are there, and these 3 cartilages are present in single. So total 9 number of cartilages are there in the wall, which makes the wall of the larynx. The larynx is made up of cartilage because it helps in the production of sound. It is known as the voice box. So the mid-ventral portion of this larynx, the mid-ventral. So this is all about the different cartilages. Then we will talk about the mid-ventral region, which is the laryngeal prominence. Mid-ventral region is known as the laryngeal prominent or prominence. This laryngeal prominence is known as Adam's apple, popularly Adam's apple, and it has very important role in the production of voice, in the making of sound. Infection or inflammation in larynx is called laryngitis. Laryngitis is any infection or inflammation in the region of larynx. Okay, so remember this laryngitis. Larynx contains vocal cords. The sound producing elastic fibers are called as vocal cords, which are present in the larynx. It produces sound. So these are the sound producing elastic fibers. Sound producing elastic fibers are the vocal cords. They help in the production of sound. Sound production is called phonation and clear speech is called articulation. Phonation and articulation. So production of sound is called as phonation. Any type of sound, if produced, it is called phonation. But when it is called speech, when the sound becomes specific, it is called speech and it is called articulation. Articulation. So there is a difference between the phonation and articulation. Phonation is any sound that is produced and articulation is the clear speech. Okay, so next in women and children the pitch is very low. Why? Because the vocal cords are usually short. Vocal cords short in women and children. That is why in women and children the voice is of high pitched. So the voice is high pitched. But in case of the man, the vocal cords are larger in size. The vocal cords are larger so that they produce the voice produced is of low pitch in case of the male. So low pitched due to the vocal cords are very large and longer and thicker, so that the vocal cords produced low pitched sound in case of man. In case of man, the voice is low pitched and high pitched in case of women and children due to the type of vocal cords. So next, this is all about the trachea, vocal cords, voice box, what are the different cartilages and how the phonation and articulation are different from one another. Next we will move to the part which is very important, the trachea or the windpipe. So trachea, it is also called the windpipe. It is the continuation of larynx. Larynx continues downward as trachea. Okay, so it is the continuation of larynx. It is 10 centimeter long. It is 10 centimeter long. It is 2.5 centimeter in diameter. In diameter, it is 2.5 centimeter, 10 centimeter in long. It lies mainly in the median plane anterior to the esophagus. As I have told while teaching the digestive system, the esophagus is present behind the trachea. The trachea or the windpipe is anterior most in the neck, then the esophagus, and then the vertebral column. So the trachea lies in the median plane, and it runs through the neck anterior, and it is present anterior to esophagus, present anterior to the esophagus or the food pipe. Okay, so this is supported by incomplete C-shaped hyaline cartilage. So hyaline cartilage support the structure of trachea, and the hyaline cartilage are incomplete C-sept structure. So you can see here these lines denote the hyaline cartilage. You can touch the trachea, you can touch it and drag your hand against the neck so that you can also feel how the hyaline cartilage are present. These are C-sept and incomplete because they are only present anteriorly. In the posterior side there is esophagus and there is no any support to the trachea, so there is no hyaline cartilage. That is why these are C-sept. Starts from here, ends here. So these are C-sept hyaline cartilage present in the trachea, which we can see by touching our neck, and these are incomplete C-sept. We call them hyaline cartilage, and they support the structure. These cartilages are incomplete posteriorly. These are incomplete posteriorly. Anteriorly we can feel it anteriorly, and posteriorly they are not there. So these are C-sept, and posterior part is not with any support of hyaline cartilage. Mucosa of trachea is lined with ciliated pseudostratified epithelium. The mucosa is lined with ciliated pseudostratified epithelium containing mucus secreting goblet cells. So goblet cells are there that secretes mucus. Mucus secreting goblet cells are there and which are lined by the ciliated pseudostratified epithelium. Lined by ciliated pseudostratified epithelium. Okay, so this is all about the trachea or the point pipe. It runs forward from the larynx till its division into two branches, two different bronchi. So let's discuss about the bronchi, which are two in number and which are formed by the division of the windpipe or the trachea. So now let's discuss about the two branches of the trachea, one to the left lung, another to the right lung, how it divided into two and enters into the lung and redivides inside. So let's move on to the structure of the bronchi or the bronchus in singular. So there are two bronchus. Trachea divided into two main bronchi. So the trachea divided into two main bronchi. These are called main bronchi or the primary bronchi. That is the right bronchus. One is the right bronchus that comes to the right lung, and the left bronchus. So the right bronchus. What is right bronchus? What is its structure? Let's discuss first. It is wider, shorter and more vertical. Right bronchus is wider, shorter, vertical as compared to the left one. So you can see the right one is shorter. This one is shorter than the left bronchi. It is also wider than the left one and vertical. It comes suddenly downward. Suddenly downward means it runs suddenly downward. That is why it is called vertical also. Okay, so the right bronchus is wider, shorter and more vertical. Then we will move for the left one. So the left bronchus. So the left bronchus will obviously be what? It will be narrower, obviously. narrower, not shorter but longer and little less vertical. Less vertical. So the right bronchus is shorter and its length is only 2.5 centimeter, whereas the longer left bronchus is about 5 centimeter. Clear? Okay. So as the right bronchus is wider, shorter and vertical, when we inhale air from the atmosphere, with the air, many different pathogens and bacteria that causes harm to our body also enters to our respiratory system. So the pathogens have more chance to enter the right lung because the right bronchus is wider, so it is easier for them to reach right lung, and shorter and vertical so that they can easily come to the right lung. So the infection in right lung is much more as compared to that of the left lung. So infection occurs in right lung very easily. It is infected most of the time. Infected most of time. Okay, so chance of infection for right lung is more. On entering the right lung at hilum, it divides into two. In case of right lung, it is divided into three parts. So here on entering into the right lung, it will divide into three parts. Okay, so it divides into how many parts? Three parts. Why? Because the right lung is divided into three lobes, as I have told you: the superior, middle and inferior. As there are three lobes in the right lung, the bronchi divides into three branches on entering into the lungs through the hilum. Hilum is the place through which, at which point, the point at which the two bronchi enters the lungs are known as the hilum. So after entering at the hilum, the bronchi divides into three parts. The right bronchi divides into three parts because the right lung has three different lobes. Okay, likewise here you can see easily, as I have drawn already here, the bronchi is divided into two branches because in the left lung there are only two lobes, the superior and the inferior. So the bronchi are lined with ciliated columnar epithelium. These are lined with ciliated columnar epithelium. Okay, ciliated columnar epithelium. And the subdivisions after the formation of bronchi from the trachea, bronchi again divides and redivides. So what are the subdivisions of bronchi? Let's discuss. So this is all about the left and right bronchi. You have to remember that the right bronchi is what? The right bronchi is wider, shorter and more vertical than the left one, so that the chance of infection of right lung is more as compared to that of the left lung. So students, what are the divisions? As the trachea is divided into bronchi, the bronchi now divides, and after division of bronchi, the bronchioles are formed. What are formed? The bronchioles. And these bronchioles again repeatedly divide to form terminal bronchioles. It forms the terminal bronchioles. Then the respiratory bronchioles. Okay, then the respiratory bronchioles again divides to form the alveolar duct. The alveolar duct, which gives rise, which is the connection to the air sacs or the alveoli. Okay, so this is the way through which the air travels from bronchi. Again, remember the bronchi is divided into branches also. We can say them as this is the primary bronchi, then the secondary bronchi, then the tertiary bronchi. This tertiary bronchi, if divided, and that will form bronchioles, then terminal bronchioles, respiratory bronchioles likewise, and finally the duct to which the alveoli is attached, the spherical alveoli is attached, we call that the alveolar duct. This is the alveolar duct and this will be the alveoli. These are the structures of alveoli. Okay, the spherical structures in which the air remains and exchange of gases takes place. Okay, so this is the structure of the bronchi, and different parts are the bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, respiratory bronchioles, alveolar duct, and finally the air from atmosphere reaches alveoli. So let us discuss the structure of alveoli now, how the exchange of air, what is the structure so that the air can diffuse to the blood from the alveolar wall. So how it diffuses? It must be very thin and permeable to oxygen and carbon dioxide. That is why the air or the oxygen diffuses from the alveoli to the blood and carbon dioxide from blood to the alveoli. So let's discuss the structure of the air sacs, which are known as the alveoli. Okay, so the alveoli represents ultimate structural and physiological unit of lungs. These are the structural and physiological units. Structural and physiological units of what? Of the lungs. Because the alveoli has a very important role in the exchange of gases. Without these structures, all the other structures are non-functional. They have no function. It only gets the fresh air to alveoli, and all the exchange of gases process of exchange occurs in the alveoli. That is why it is known as the structural and physiological unit of the lungs. Alveoli provide great surface area for gaseous exchange. It provides great surface area for gaseous exchange. Gaseous exchange means, here gases means the oxygen and carbon dioxide in particular. So it will provide greater surface, as it is spherical structure. It will provide surface area, larger surface area for the exchange of gases inside the lungs. As we know that inside the intestine, there are villi which increases the surface for absorption. It increases the surface for absorption. For absorption of what? It will increase the surface for absorption of food. So food absorption can easily occur. The surface of the inner wall or internal wall of the intestine is increased by the presence of villi on the inner surface of the intestine. Likewise here, the greater surface area is provided by the spherical air sacs or the alveoli that are present inside the lungs. Okay, so they have important function like this, and approximately 3 million alveoli in human are there. How many? 300 million alveoli are there in human lungs. 300 million, and they expose to a surface area of nearly 70 meter square. So 70 meter square area is provided by the surface of the alveoli for exchange of gases. Okay, so the skin, if we will compare with the skin surface is only 1.6 meter square, and the surface provided by alveoli is much more than that, around 40 times more 40 times more than the skin surface. Okay, clear. Exchange of gases occurs across the respiratory membrane of alveoli. So the respiratory membrane of alveoli, the structure of alveoli, if we will draw like this, this is the structure of alveoli and this is the wall. I am drawing it circular here, but actually it is spherical in structure with a pipe. The pipe is the alveolar duct and the balloon shaped larger alveoli are there. Actually they are very minute, but I am telling you like this because you can easily understand. The air through the alveolar duct enter to the alveoli and the alveoli becomes turgid, and now exchange of gases takes place through this wall, and then the blood capillaries are also present surrounding the alveoli. These are the blood capillaries. Okay, this surrounds the alveoli and then reunite. So this is the blood capillary, then the blood vessel, then capillarize and again recollects. So here it makes a capillary network of capillaries. So you can understand it better. If this is the alveolar duct, my wrist is the alveolar duct, and this is the alveoli, the blood vessels comes and they form capillary and capture it throughout its surface area, so that it captures in such a way so tightly that the air can easily diffuse from the alveoli through the alveolar wall to the wall of the blood capillary into the blood. Okay, so this type of condition is there in the alveoli of lungs. Clear? So this is how the importance of the alveoli can be explained. So the exchange of gases takes place inside this alveoli. So how the alveoli, what is the structure of the alveolar wall, what is the structure of the wall of the blood capillary, so that it will permit it to enter into the blood. So now we will discuss about the alveolar wall and the blood capillaries wall and how the gases diffuse through them. So what are the properties of these walls, how they play important role in the diffusion of the gases like the carbon dioxide and oxygen. So these walls form a surface which is known as the respiratory surface. The respiratory surface. So what is the respiratory surface? Respiratory surface is made up of three important parts. It has three important parts. So what are the three important parts? Number one, the first important part is the wall of the alveoli. The wall of the alveoli, which is lined with squamous epithelial cell, squamous epithelial lining of alveolus. Okay, so the squamous epithelial lining of alveolus makes the first part of the respiratory surface. As I have told you, the respiratory surface means through which the respiratory gases travel or diffusion occurs. So this is the first part, the lining of alveolus, squamous epithelial lining. Number two, the second one is endothelial cell lining of the adjacent capillary. So as I have told you, the alveolus is captured by blood capillaries, and as it is captured, the wall of the blood capillary and wall of the alveoli are in close contact to one another. So the endothelial cell lining, endothelial cell lining is the second part. Endothelial cell lining of adjacent blood capillary. So this is the second part. Next we will move for the third part, which is the basement membrane. The third part is the fused basement membrane that lie between the squamous epithelial lining and the endothelial cells. So I can write here fused basement membrane. So the basement membrane of both the lining are fused to form a single layer, which lie between alveolar and the lining of the endothelial cells, or the alveolar and endothelial cells. Okay, so the basement membrane is the third part. So through these three lining of the cells, or through these three boundaries, the air diffuses. If the air starts, the oxygen will diffuse. Then the oxygen diffuse through the squamous epithelial lining of alveolus. Then the in between these two layers, the squamous epithelial and the endothelial cell, in between them the basement membrane is there. So first oxygen from the alveolar sac enter to the squamous epithelial lining of its own wall, that means alveolar wall. Then it diffuses through the basement membrane. Then it passes through the endothelial cell lining, which is the lining. This lining is the wall of the blood capillary. So first it passes through the alveolar wall, through the squamous epithelial lining, then the fused basement membrane, then the endothelial cell lining of the blood vessel to reach the blood. Likewise, when the carbon dioxide diffuses, it will fast travel through the capillary wall of the blood capillary, that is the endothelial cell lining, then to the fused basement membrane, and finally the lining of alveolus, that is the squamous epithelium, to reach the alveolus. So this is the path through which the oxygen and carbon dioxide, these two important respiratory gases, diffuse, and the oxygen travels to the blood, and from the blood carbon dioxide comes out to the alveolar sac or the air sacs. So this makes the respiratory surface. The respiratory surface is made by these three different layers. At respiratory membrane, the total distance of separation means, if this is the alveolar duct, this is your alveoli, and this is the blood vessel, then this blood vessel is so much close to the alveoli that the distance between the alveolus and the blood is, these three layers make a distance of 0.1 micrometer only. The distance will be 0.1 micrometer. Okay, so 0.1 micrometer means very small amount of gap is there, which is just negligible. That is why it can easily pass through these three layers. Okay, this is a very little distance, or the separation. The wall separates the blood and the air with a very less distance. So gaseous exchange across the respiratory surface or the respiratory membrane proceeds very rapidly. This exchange of gases from the alveoli to blood, from the blood to the alveoli occurs very rapidly. Why? Because the distance is very small and both oxygen and carbon dioxide are lipid soluble. So lipid soluble helps in the diffusion. Both of them are lipid soluble. Both means here oxygen, carbon dioxide, the respiratory gases, and lipid soluble helps in the transportation of gases because lipid is the constituent of these walls, the walls of the endothelial cell as well as the squamous epithelium. I mean the wall of the alveoli as well as the wall of the blood vessel. Okay, so these are the two regions why the respiratory gases travel or transportation of gases or diffusion of gases occurs so rapidly. Okay, one is the distance is very small, that is 0.1 micrometer only, and both the gases are lipid soluble. So this is all about the respiratory surface. Now let's move on to the structure of lungs. So friends, let's move on to the most important part of the respiratory system, that is the lungs. So this is all about your respiratory surface, the three parts of the respiratory surface, how the distance is minimized, how the oxygen and carbon dioxide lipid soluble. So in order to travel through the distance of 0.1 micron, it is designed like that. So lungs, the most important part of the respiratory system. Lungs are present in a very safe place in the thoracic cage. So thorax means it is the anterior part of our body. It is present upper to the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the muscle, the respiratory muscle. It also helps in respiration. It has a great role in it. So we know that if this is the structure of the lungs, then below the lungs, this is the structure of the diaphragm. So this is the diaphragm which separates the thorax and abdomen of the body. So thorax is the upper part having both the lungs, and as we know the heart is present at the center. Here the heart is present. Okay, so the lungs is present in a very safe place, as I have told you. Where it is in the thoracic cage. Thoracic cage. So this thoracic cage is a well protected compartment enclosing both lungs. It is well protected and encloses both lungs. Both the lungs are enclosed inside the thoracic cage in a very protective way and dorsally supported by the thoracic vertebrae. It is dorsally supported by the thoracic vertebrae. So the thoracic vertebrae means the vertebral column is divided into various parts, and thoracic vertebrae is the part of the vertebral column which is present behind dorsally or behind the thoracic cavity or thoracic cage. So it is protected or supported from backward by the thoracic vertebrae. Likewise, it is supported laterally by the ribs. Laterally it is supported by the ribs. So ribs are there on the lateral side. It protects the thoracic cavity In the dorsal side it is the thoracic cage, and below on the ventral side we will discuss first. On the ventral side, on the front side, the chest bone or breast bone, or it is also called as sternum, is there. So the sternum means it is protecting ventrally. Ventrally it is protected by the sternum, which is also called the breastbone. Okay, so sternum protects the thoracic cage ventrally, dorsally by the thoracic vertebrae, and laterally by the ribs. And below it is protected by the muscle, which I told you is the diaphragm. So diaphragm protects it below. So it is protected by diaphragm below. Below protected by, I am using another pen, it is diaphragm. Diaphragm. Okay, so diaphragm is important because it supports below. Sternum is important, it supports ventrally. The dorsal side there is the thoracic vertebrae, and laterally by the rib bones, and it encloses from all the sides to make it more protected or more safe, because the most important organs are present in this region of the body, that are the lungs and the heart. The heart is the most important organ of our circulatory system. So another important thing is that on the upper side the compact neck is there. That is why the compact neck also protects it on the upper side of the cage, thoracic cage. So below by diaphragm and above by compact neck. So neck has also important role because it protects the cage or the thoracic cage from above and below by the diaphragm. So this is how the thoracic cage is protected from all around. And the mediastinum is the place where the heart is enclosed. Okay, mediastinum. I am writing mediastinum. So this is the thoracic cage. This is the detail of the thoracic cage. It is protected from all around because the most important organs are present in the thoracic cage. Clear? Okay. Then we will go for the mediastinum. The mediastinum, it is named so because it is present near the sternum. This bone is the sternum, and at the middle of the sternum, the place, the cavity which is surrounded by the lungs. Both the lungs are present little bit away from one another, and the cavity, the place, the space which is formed in between the two lungs is called the mediastinum, where the most important organ of the circulatory system, that is the heart, is located. You can see the detail of heart and its structure, blood circulation in our body in my videos of the circulatory system. So this is about the mediastinum. Okay, clear? Mediastinum, the space where the heart is located safe within the two lungs in the thoracic cage. Okay, clear? Then pleural sac covers each lung. Another important, pleural sac, it covers each lungs. So the lung has a pleural sac which guards the lung, and it contains pleural fluid, because the pleural sac is made up of two linings. There are two membranes, pleural membranes, and in between the two membranes there is the pleural sac. Okay, so the pleural sac contains the pleural fluid. So this fluid provides safety to the lungs in order to avoid any accident, any wear and tear. There is the pleural fluid. It acts as lubricant, acts as lubricants, and the lubricant prevents wear and tear. It will prevent wear and tear or any damage or any damage to the lungs can be avoided with the help of the lubricant which is present between the two layers, the two layer protecting system of the lungs, which forms a cavity known as the pleural cavity or pleural sac that contains the pleural fluid in order to avoid any type of damage. Okay, so damage can be avoided by the pleural fluid. The lung is enclosed, remember enclosed, lung is enclosed by two membranes called pleural membrane or pleurae. It is called the two membrane which are known as pleurae, okay, or pleural membrane. These two layers forms a cavity, pleural cavity or pleural sac, where the pleural fluid is present, which is secreted by this fluid. Remember, this fluid is secreted by the epithelial cells. It is secreted by the epithelial cells. Okay, so pleural fluid is there to protect it, to prevent any damage, to prevent any wear and tear in the most important structure, that is the lungs, the most important structure of our respiratory system. Now we will move on for the detailed structure of the lungs, the external as well as the internal. So this is how the lungs is protected in the thoracic cage, how the pleural fluid is present in the pleural cavity in between the two pleural membrane, and it avoids the wear and tear or any damage of our lungs. Okay, so let's move on to the structure. So the structure of the lungs. Structure of lungs is divided into two parts: the external structure or the morphological structure, and the internal or the anatomical structure. So first we will discuss about the external structure. The external structure of our lung. So how the lung looks like, and if we will touch our lung, how it feels. So these are very soft, spongy, because there are many air sacs present inside it, making it very spongy due to the presence of the alveoli. It is compact and also elastic. So this is the external properties. We can found the lung to be soft, spongy, compact and elastic. Remember, it is rosy pink in color. The color is how it looks. It looks rosy pink in color, but during childhood particularly it looks rosy pink. But with age, when the animal or the individual become older, it becomes dark up to it looks slate gray. Okay, it looks slate gray gradually. During childhood it looks rosy pink. Okay, so this is about the color. Then the shape. These are conical in shape. You can see also here. These are conical. Shape is conical. Looks like cones having a base, having the base and apex. So you can see here in the diagram also conical end is the apex, which is present extend from base of neck up to, actually it extends from the base of neck. Here it is the base of neck. The lung starts from here up to the diaphragm. So this is it starts from the base of neck, extends up to the diaphragm, and it is conical in shape, having a apex. An apex. The apex is at the base of the neck, and base which is at the diaphragm. Okay, so the apex is at the base of the neck, and the base is near the diaphragm. So this is conical in shape. The conical end is at the top. That means it forms the apex. Okay, so lower part is the broader one, that is known as the base. The lower one means the part of the lungs towards the diaphragm is broader, so it is known as the base. The surface lying close to rib is costal surface. Okay, let's move on. Let me erase this. The surface that lies towards the ribs is known as the costal surface. So the part of the surface of the lung facing towards the rib is known as the costal surface. Towards ribs is the costal surface, and inner surface facing towards the mediastinum. They face to each other. The part of the lung that face to one another, this place is known as the mediastinum, where the heart is located, and the surface that face towards this is known as the median surface. It is known as the median surface. Okay, median surface and costal surface. Costal surface is towards the ribs, median surface is towards the mediastinum. Towards the mediastinum, it is the median surface. Next, we will discuss about the left lung and right lung and their similarities and dissimilarities. Remember the left lung is narrower, slightly narrower and longer than the right one. You can also see in the diagram. The left lung is slightly narrower and longer, narrow as well as long than the right lung. Okay. Another thing you can see, the left lung has two lobes, whereas the right lung is divided into three different lobes: superior lobe, middle lobe and inferior lobe. Whereas in left lung, two parts or two lobes are there, the superior lobe and the inferior lobes. So this is the difference between the two lungs. So the right one is wider. The right one is obviously wider than that of the left and shorter, and it has three lobes. So why this one, the right one, is shorter and wider? The reason is the liver is present just below the right lung. So due to the presence of liver, as we know, it is the largest gland of our body, the liver. So it occupy a very large space in our body, so that the lung on the right side becomes shorter and wider. That is why the heart is present towards the left, slightly towards the left, because the left lung is narrower and longer. So heart is slightly towards left. Remember this. Liver on the right side. Due to the presence of liver, the right lung is shorter and wider. Left lung is narrow and longer. And as the right lung is wider, the heart in the mediastinum is located slightly towards the left from the mid axis. Okay, so let's move on to the internal structure. So this is all about the external structure of our lung. Now we will talk about the internal structure. So the internal structure. In the internal structure, we will discuss about the lobules. So the lobes we have already discussed. The left lung has 2 lobes. The right one has 3 lobes, but each lobe is again divided into lobules. Each lobe is divided into smaller lobules. Okay, then lobules receives terminal bronchioles. The terminal bronchioles, after the division of bronchioles into secondary bronchioles, then terminal bronchioles. These terminal bronchioles are supplied to each lobules. They reaches each lobules with fresh air. Another point, hilus or hilum, which is the part of the lungs at where the 2 bronchi enters the lung. So the place of the lung where both the bronchi enters the lungs are known as hilum, entry point of bronchi to lungs. Okay, that is known as the hilus or hilum. And not only this bronchi enters the lungs, but also with that pulmonary vein artery. Along with this, the pulmonary vein and artery also enters the lung, and the nerve supply is also there for the sensation. The vagus nerve enters. The vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve, pulmonary vein and artery, and the bronchi. This bronchi. So bronchi, vagus nerve, pulmonary vein and artery all enters the lungs at a region known as hilum or hilus. Okay, so the terminal bronchi or the terminal bronchioles finally divide again to form the respiratory bronchioles, which again divide to form the alveolar duct and finally reaches the alveoli. So the alveolar duct expands to form atrium. The alveolar duct expands to form atrium. It expands to form atrium, and atrium leads to 2 to 5 alveolar sac. It expands to form, yes, like this. So if this is the alveolar duct, then it divides to form many atrium, 2 to 5 atrium, and these atrium forms the alveoli. These are the atrium which forms the alveoli finally. Okay, so this is the exact structure. The air sacs or the alveoli is only formed after the alveolar duct divide into 2 to 5 different atrium, and each atrium leads to a single alveoli. So this is how the structure of lungs is, and how the lung is externally and internally made up of, and how it functions. So this is all about the structural detail of the respiratory system of human beings. Starting from the previous video, we will start from the external nose or nostril, through the nasal cavity, pharynx, then through the larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, then different parts of the bronchioles like the primary bronchioles, secondary bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, then the respiratory bronchioles, alveolar duct, atrium and alveoli, and this is the way through which the air enters to the lungs and comes out from the lungs. So this is all about the structure of the respiratory system of human being. In the next video tutorial, we will learn about the function of our respiratory system and lungs, how it perform various functions. Thank you very much. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you have doubts, comment below and let me know your doubts that I can clear in the next class. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and stay tuned. Thank you very much.